I reached out to hold him. Not even fully, just my hands extended, palms up, ready to support his fragile neck. I was smiling, careful, slow. My arms had done this 100 times before. She slapped my wrists away, shoved my shoulder, hard. "Don't touch him." Sophia snapped louder than the crying baby. "You're dirty." The word cracked through the air. Sharp, public. No one moved. I stumbled back a step. My heel clipped the edge of the rug. I didn't fall, but the room tilted for a moment. Time, too. Brendan stood by the couch. Still. One hand on the stroller handle, the other in his pocket. He looked at the floor. Not at me. Not at her. On the coffee table, a blue balloon half deflated. Gift bags. A half-eaten cake I'd made. My hands were still midair. My chest burned. Sophia turned, rocked, the baby walked away. No apology. No glance back. Just silence until someone coughed and started whispering again. I lowered my arms, picked up the blanket I'd dropped, folded it neatly. No one helped. I walked into the kitchen. Slowly. Careful not to spill anything, especially not my face. The baby's bottle sat on the counter. I washed it. Not asked to. Not thanked for it. I washed it because that's what mothers do. Even when they're no longer welcome. The sink faucet dripped. I dried it too. Voices returned in the living room. Small talk. A laugh. Then a sharp, shh, the baby. I stood behind the half wall. Out of sight. Still breathing shallow. Still holding the towel. My hands smelled like soap and sour milk. I wasn't dirty. I wasn't. But no one said otherwise. Brendan walked into the kitchen. I turned toward him. He rubbed the back of his neck. "She didn't mean it," he mumbled. "She's just tired. You know, postpartum stuff." I nodded. I smiled. A small, cracked, unconvincing thing. He didn't look me in the eye. "She doesn't hate you," he added. That made me flinch harder than the shove. Hate. That word hadn't even occurred to me. I nodded again. "Of course. I understand." He patted the counter like that ended the conversation, then walked back out. I stood alone in the kitchen, wiping a counter that didn't need wiping. The party ended early. A few of her friends left dishes half-eaten. No one said goodbye to me. No one thanked me for hosting. By night, the house was quiet again. Sophia had gone upstairs. Brendan was in the garage. I walked through the living room, slowly picking up trash-folding blankets, tossing paper plates. I paused where I'd stood when she pushed me. My shoulder still tingled where her hand had landed. I looked down at the floor. This was still my home. I had paid for every inch of it. Every tile. Every wall. Every coat of paint on the damn banister. I had held Brendan through 4 fevers, 2 broken bones, and a divorce he'd barely survived. And tonight, I was too dirty to hold his child. I pressed my palm to the wall. It didn't move, but something in me did. I turned off the lights one by one and walked down the hall back toward the room that used to be mine before they merged households and told me to use the guest room instead. I opened the closet, moved a few coats aside, and pulled down the box labeled winter linens. Underneath the flannel sheets was what I was really reaching for, the fireproof folder. I carried it to the desk, sat down, and opened it. I set the table. Forks on the left, knives on the right. Napkins folded clean, not fancy, just right. I reheated the chicken Sophia had defrosted. Roasted the carrots she forgot were in the fridge. Added fresh thyme, not that anyone would notice. They came down late. Sophia carried the baby. Brendan carried his phone. Neither said hello. I poured water. No wine tonight. No need. They sat. I stood at the edge of the kitchen until Brendan waved a hand, vague and half-hearted. "You can sit, too, Ramona," he said. Not Mom, not even Ma. Ramona. I walked to the far end of the table opposite the baby's high chair. I sat. Quietly. They ate. Sophia asked about daycare wait lists. Brendan talked about a new campaign at work. The baby cried once Sophia stood, bounced him, sat again. They talked about crib mattresses and bottle warmers. No one asked how my day was. No one asked if I'd eaten. I cut my chicken into tiny bites, chewed slow, swallowed with water. No one filled my glass. I didn't ask. Brendan dropped his fork. It clanged. He didn't pick it up, just grabbed another one from the drawer. I leaned over, took the fallen one, and carried it to the sink. The dishwasher blinked full. I'd run it earlier. I unloaded it as they kept talking. They didn't pause. Plates clicked. Ice in glasses shifted. "She's been sleeping better," Sophia said. Glancing at the baby, I didn't correct her. The baby was a boy. They started planning the weekend. Brunch with her mother. Some friends over Saturday. Brendan mentioned moving the grill. "Let's keep the side yard open," Sophia said. "We can use it for the stroller and stuff." "That's where the tomatoes are," I said softly. Sophia blinked. "Oh." She turned back to Brendan. "We'll move them. It's fine." I nodded, stood, carried my empty plate to the sink, then theirs. I didn't ask, just collected scraped, stacked, like always. I filled the sink with water, added soap, washed, one by one, quiet. Behind me, their voices lowered. The baby fussed, chair legs scraped back. Brendan cleared his throat. "We're gonna take him up," he said, not looking my way. "Thanks for dinner," Sophia added already, halfway to the stairs. I finished the last dish, wiped the counters, dried the sink, turned off the light, walked down the hall to my room, the guest room, not the master. That was theirs now. I sat on the edge of the twin bed, folded my hands. They smelled like lemon soap. My knees ached. I closed my eyes, listened, muffled voices upstairs, a laugh, a door closing. I stood, opened the drawer beside the bed, pulled out the envelope. The original deed, my name, no cosigner, no transfer. And beneath it, another document. One Brendan had signed years ago when I helped pay off his credit cards. He called it temporary. I called it love. I stared at the signature. He didn't remember signing it. But I had never forgotten. I grabbed the laundry basket and reached for the nursery door. Locked. I tried again, gently. Still locked. The light was on inside. I heard music, soft and tinny, a lullaby loop, something from her phone. I knocked. Once. No answer. I knocked again, softer. "Sophia, I've got his little socks. They were in the dryer." Still nothing. I waited a moment, then turned away. Basket in hand. Socks folded anyway. Back in the hallway, I paused by the vent. Her voice came sharp through it. "She's just a guest here." Silence. Then again, lower. "No, I don't want her touching anything. The baby, the food, nothing. He smells weird after she holds him." I stepped back. Not fast. Not loud. Just enough to feel the tile under my feet. I held the basket tighter. I went downstairs. Put the socks in a drawer, the one near the kitchen. She never used it. Later that afternoon, I went to make my soup. The pot was gone. I looked through the lower cabinet. Nothing. I opened the pantry. A new label had been taped above the shelves. Infant safe zone. Everything was labeled. Organic. Sterile. Pre-approved. My spices were missing. My canned beans. Even the garlic jar. The fridge had a note taped across the top drawer. No strong flavors. No leftovers. I found my stew from Monday in the trash. Untouched. Lid gone. Brendan came in. I turned to him. "Did you throw this out?" He looked at the sink. I think Sophia said it smelled strong. It wasn't spoiled. Still, he left the room like that ended the topic. I didn't argue. I took a deep breath, picked up the trash bag, and tied it closed. That night, I brewed a cup of coffee. Only one. The smell clung to the walls. I sat with it in the dark. Upstairs, I heard footsteps. A door creaked open, then shut. In the morning, a new bottle of cleaner sat on the counter. Bleach-free. Unscented. Approved by whatever website Sophia followed. A second one joined it by noon. This one was labeled nursery safe. I wiped the counters with the cloth I brought from my room. My own rag. My own water. My own space. At lunch, I reheated my rice quietly in the microwave. When Sophia entered, she wrinkled her nose. "What is that?" "Just rice," I said. She opened the freezer. "Please don't microwave strong-smelling stuff." "It lingers." I nodded. She left the room. I poured the rest into the trash. Cleaned the bowl twice. That evening, I tried to reach for the baby's bottle to wash it. Sophia grabbed it first. "I got it," she said. Voice clipped. "I'm right here," I said gently. She didn't answer, just turned the faucet on hard. Brendan walked in, phone in hand. "Everything okay?" Sophia kissed his cheek. "Just tired." He looked at me. I smiled. Nothing more. I walked down the hall, past the locked nursery, past the new nightlight she'd plugged into the hallway outlet without asking. I reached my room, closed the door, opened my drawer, pulled out the envelope again. This time, I added something new to it. A receipt from today. Proof of groceries. Proof of presents. Proof I was still here. My card declined at checkout. Twice. I stood there holding a loaf of bread and a gallon of milk blinking at the screen like it had made a mistake. The cashier looked bored. The line behind me grew. I pulled out another card, my own this time, and paid without a word. When I got home, I checked the account. 0. The grocery fund Brendan and I shared for 8 years was gone. Frozen. Balance 0.00. I texted him. No response. I waited an hour. Then walked into the living room where he was rocking the baby phone in hand. "Brendan," I said quietly. "The grocery card isn't working." He didn't look up. "Oh, yeah." We had to pause that. "We're moving things over to one account." Without telling me, he looked at me like I'd missed the obvious. Sophia wanted to consolidate. We're a family now. It just makes sense. I kept my voice level. "So the joint card isn't really joint anymore," he finished. "I mean, we appreciate what you've done, Mom, but it's time we managed things ourselves." I nodded, slowly. He turned back to the baby. Sophia walked in from the hallway. She was carrying a basket of laundry I'd washed. "Oh," she said, stopping short. "I meant to call you about the card. Total mix-up. Tech glitch or something." "Right," I said. She smiled too brightly. "It's not a big deal, right? We'll grab what we need for now." "Of course," I replied. "It's your home now." She liked that. Walked off humming. Brendan didn't even blink. That night, I logged into my old savings account. The one they didn't know about. The one I hadn't touched in 5 years. Still intact. I printed the most recent statement. Tucked it into the fireproof folder. The next morning, the pantry had been rearranged again. All the items I bought last week were gone. In their place, expensive curated brands, all tagged with little post-it notes, "Baby safe, Sophia's only." I opened the trash. There it was, my bread, my coffee, the butter I liked, dumped, unopened. I didn't say a word. I wrote it down instead. On a yellow notepad, I started a new page. Removed from Kitchen Week of March 3rd. I listed the items, the receipts, the shelf space. After dinner, they left their dishes again. I washed them. No one thanked me. Later, I found my name removed from the Wi-Fi. The network password changed. The thermostat locked. I didn't complain. I copied the bill, highlighted the utility charges, made another note, added it to the envelope. Upstairs, Sophia laughed. Downstairs, I folded towels in silence, took photos of the nursery door, of the new keypad lock, of the cleaning charts taped to the fridge. I uploaded them all to my cloud folder. I wasn't keeping score. I was keeping records. At midnight, I brewed one final cup of coffee, poured it into my thermos, sat on the edge of my bed, and opened the old envelope. Deed, signature, statements, and now proof. I sealed it again, slid it under my bed. Tomorrow I would begin something else. I pried the vent open with a butter knife. Screws loosened slowly, quietly. I kept the kitchen fan running to cover the sound. When the last corner slipped free, I reached in. My fingers brushed cold metal, then cloth, then the fireproof envelope. I pulled it out. It was heavier than I remembered. I carried it to the guest room, locked the door, and sat cross-legged on the floor. The zipper groaned as it opened. The deed came out first. Crisp, untouched, still only my name. Not Brendan's, not Ramona and family, just me, dated 12 years ago. Before Sophia, before the baby, before they moved in just for a few months. I pressed my hand against it, my initials near the notary stamp. No cosigner, no lien, paid in full. Mine. I set it aside and reached deeper into the envelope. Next came the sealed letter. The handwriting made my throat catch. In case they forget, Isaiah's scrawl. Still strong. Still angled like he was in a hurry to get back to something useful. I hadn't opened it in years. I peeled the seal with my thumbnail. The paper crackled. Ramona, if you're reading this, you're either cleaning out a drawer or someone's testing your patience. Probably the second one. Let me be clear. This house is yours. You built it. You held it up when I was sick. When I was broke. When I didn't believe we'd ever own something of our own. If anyone tries to rewrite that, remind them what this place cost you. Not in dollars. In hours. In silence. In meals skipped so someone else could eat. They'll forget. People always do. But paper doesn't. Love, Isaiah. I stared at the signature until my eyes blurred. I folded the letter. Slipped it into a plastic sleeve. Labeled it in marker, "Do not discard." I laid it beside the deed. Then I added the photos from the last 3 weeks. The receipts. The notes. The printed emails. The screenshots of my calendar. My transfers, my dinner plans, my denied access. I labeled a new section contingency. I organized everything into a binder, quietly, methodically, without anger. This wasn't about winning. It was about remembering. The next morning, Sophia asked if I could clear the living room for her mother's visit. She hates clutter, she said. And the rocking chair doesn't really match the aesthetic. The chair was Isaiah's. I'd sanded it myself. Painted it twice. Fixed the leg he cracked during a long night, holding Brendan through the flu. I nodded. That afternoon, I moved it into my room. Covered it with a quilt. Sat in it for an hour. Let it creak. Let it remember. Later, I ordered a duplicate of the deed and a second copy of the will. I called a lawyer I hadn't spoken to in years. Left a message. Brief. Direct. At dinner, I ate alone. Again. They sat on the couch with takeout containers, baby between them. No one spoke to me. I didn't mind. I was thinking about Isaiah's letter and how much louder silence could be than any fight. I opened the blinds and saw the folding chairs first. 12 of them. All white. All new. The rented canopy came next. Then the tables. Then Sophia directing it all in yoga pants and a phone clipped to her waistband, like she was running an event firm. I stood at the window, coffee cooling in my hand. No one had told me. At noon, a woman I didn't recognize knocked on the back door. I opened it. "Delivery," she said, waving a clipboard. "Party platters. Names under Sophia Andrews." I signed. Carried tray after tray into the kitchen. Wings, fruit skewers, mini quiches, gluten-free labels on each one. Sophia walked in, glanced at the trays and said, "Oh, can you put the dairy-free stuff on a separate counter? My cousin's kid has allergies." I moved them. Then I asked, "Is this a baby shower?" She laughed once. "No, just a little welcome brunch. You know, close friends." I nodded. She was already walking out the door. By 2, the yard filled up. Neighbors. Friends from her mommy group. Brendan's old co-workers. Even her mother showed up with a new handbag and attitude to match. No one greeted me. I brought out extra water bottles, wiped down the back door handle, placed napkins in the wind. One of the guests' middle-aged Chanel sunglasses' aggressive smile leaned toward me near the lemonade dispenser. "You're the nanny, right?" she said. I stared at her. "I'm Brendan's mother." She blinked. "Oh, I thought you were just helping." I smiled. "I am." She backed off, muttered something about the heat, and found someone else to compliment. Inside, the baby monitor crackled. Upstairs, the baby slept. No one checked. At 4 p.m., Brendan walked into the kitchen while I was wiping down the counter again. "Hey," he said, grabbing a drink from the fridge. "Hope you're cool with everything. Sophia said you didn't want to be in the middle of it all." I paused. "Middle of what?" He shrugged. "You know, her crowd. They're different. Different. From me, from him, from the woman who paid off his first car and stocked this fridge for 10 years. I nodded. "Sure." He smiled, relieved. "Thanks, Mom. I knew you'd understand." At dusk, the guests moved inside. I made coffee. No one took a cup. They brought their own drinks, their own desserts, their own music. I stayed in the kitchen, cleaned the sink again, rearranged the mail, watched as plates stacked up. Sophia never introduced me. Her mother stood in the foyer holding the baby, snapping photos with her phone. "Get one of me near the piano," she said. "Looks expensive." "It is," I murmured. No one heard. When the last car pulled away, I cleared the trash. Empty cups, half-eaten fruit, cocktail napkins with gold foil lettering. "Welcome, little one." My name wasn't on anything, not the invitations, not the photos, not the list on Sophia's fridge marked confirmed guests. But I was there, in the receipts, in the deed, in the bricks. I wrote a note on my pad. Brendan confirms I'm not listed. Sophia calls it her event. Then I dated it, filed it into the folder, turned off the kitchen lights, and opened my laptop. He parked in my driveway, like he owned it. White truck. Vinyl lettering on the side. Eagle Renovations and Design. I watched from the upstairs window as he popped the tailgate, pulled out a clipboard and tape measure, then walked straight to the side yard. No knock. No doorbell. No hello. I opened the door before he made it to the porch. "Can I help you?" I asked. He blinked. "Here for a quote. Back patio and sunroom extension." "Sophia said you were expecting me." I wasn't. Sophia appeared behind me barefoot, holding the baby. "Sorry, Ramona," she said sweetly. "I meant to tell you. He's just here for measurements. No work yet. You're expanding the patio." "Possibly," she shrugged. "And maybe enclosing part of it. Just ideas. We've been cramped." "In my house," I said. She smiled like I was the one confused. "Well, it's all just conceptual." The contractor nodded, already scribbling. Just grabbing dimensions. No permits pulled yet. I let him walk past. Watched him pace the deck. Kneel by the footings. Stretch his tape across the siding I repainted 3 summers ago with Isaiah. I stepped inside, grabbed my phone. Snapped a photo through the screen, his truck, his plate, his clipboard with the header visible. Next, I photographed his boots on my porch steps. Inside, Sophia talked on the phone. Her voice was light, fake laughing. "No, the kitchen stays. Just the back half. Maybe a walk-in for the nursery stuff." She didn't lower her voice. I moved to the living room and opened the drawer beneath the end table. Pulled out the folder. I added a note, April 11th. Contractor appeared without prior notice. Claimed to be quoting for additions. Sophia confirmed plans. Attached the photo printouts. Filed them behind the receipts. That evening, Brendan came home later than usual. He dropped his bag near the stairs, kissed the baby, and sat at the kitchen bar. "So, what do you think about a sunroom?" he asked casually. "I think it's interesting you didn't ask me before sending a contractor." Sophia chimed in. "It's not personal. It's just a functional update. For the baby and guests. What guests? You know, she said, gesturing. Family? I didn't answer. Brendan glanced at me. It's still your house. We know that. Do you? I asked. He shifted. Look, we're not doing anything yet. It's just an idea. Then keep it that way, I said, wiping my hands on a dish towel. Sophia smiled. Of course. You don't have to get defensive. I looked at her. She looked away. The next day, paint samples showed up in the mail. Catalogs for nursery designs. A handwritten sketch left on the counter labeled, Possible Layout South Wall. I took photos of all of it, labeled them by date, location. By Thursday, they'd scheduled a follow-up. I overheard Brendan say, she's chill about it, just old school. Sophia replied, she's not going to live here forever. That night, I moved the binder into a locked box. Then I emailed myself copies of every page, backed them up in 3 places. They were planning renovations. I was planning documentation, 1 brick at a time. He slammed the cabinet, not hard, but deliberate, loud enough to announce a shift. Can we just talk? He said. I dried my hands, turned to face him. Go ahead. He leaned on the counter, arms crossed like a boy trying to look grown. It's hard, he began, living here, with all of this. I waited. With what, Brendan? He exhaled. With everything being yours. Every corner has your touch, your memories, Dad's things. The kitchen hasn't changed since I was in high school. And I feel like a guest in my own house. I blinked. You're not the guest, Mom. You own it. I get that. But I'm a father now, a husband. I can't feel like a teenager coming home after curfew. So this is about pride. It's about needing space. Sophia wants to build something that's hers too. She wants my house. He hesitated. She wants a home, he corrected. She has one. She's standing in it. Brendan rubbed his face. She says it feels like a museum. A museum too neat. Too quiet. No freedom to change anything. She said it's like living with history, watching her. I felt something pull in my chest, not pain, something sharper. And you agree, I think. Maybe we all need a fresh start. I looked at him, really looked. He wasn't the boy I raised, he was softer now. Quieter. Always watching Sophia before speaking. Is that what you told the contractor? He flinched. It was just a quote. No. It was a message. He didn't reply. I took a breath. 8 years ago, you asked for help. I gave you a roof. No deadline. No rent. I paid off your medical bills. You were barely 30, Brendan. He stared at the floor. You said, it's temporary, Mom. Just until we get on our feet. He nodded slowly. You're standing now. But you're still in my house. He didn't argue. I let you forget whose name is on the deed, I said. That's my fault. Mom, no. I said sharper than I intended. You feel emasculated because you never earned this. You occupied it. His face reddened. That's not fair. No, I said. It's not. He looked like he wanted to yell or cry or leave, but he didn't. He just stood there holding a truth that no longer bent in his favor. I turned back to the sink, picked up the sponge, scrubbed the plate. I didn't say you couldn't stay, I added. I just stopped saying what I expected, and that's when I knew. My silence hadn't been kindness. It had been permission. They filled the quiet with assumptions. Plans. Paint swatches. Because I let them. I dried the last plate, stacked it, closed the cabinet with a soft click. Behind me, Brendan was still there. He didn't say another word, but I saw it. In his posture, in his stillness. He knew the line had been redrawn. That night I added a note to the binder. April 14th. Brendan admits he's ashamed to live in Mom's place. States desire to create distance. Sophia described home as a museum. I closed the file and finally locked the drawer. I brewed the coffee strong. No cream, no sugar. just heat and grit and caffeine that hit the throat like a warning. I poured it into my travel mug, grabbed the key from the drawer no one touched, drove 10 miles in silence. The storage unit sat between a tire shop and a chain-link fence covered in rust. I'd rented it under my maiden name, paid yearly, in cash, no paper trail, no shared accounts. Unit 204. The door groaned open. Dust hit first, then memory. Stacks of boxes lined the wall, labeled in sharp black ink. Taxes, insurance, mortgage, trust. I opened the plastic bin in the center and pulled out the manila folder near the top. Inside the original trust binder from 2015, the one Isaiah and I updated after his second surgery, the one no one else knew about. Our son wasn't the trustee. I was. Still am. I flipped through pages, noted signatures, legal seals, the property, the investment account, the clause that allowed me to transfer, freeze, or dissolve assets without notice. I tucked the binder under my arm, reached for the small tin box beside it. Inside a business card, crisp, protected by plastic, embossed in gold. Eleanor Fisk, estate law. I smiled. She owed me a favor. 20 years ago, I lent her father $7,000 to keep his shop open through a dry season. He repaid me, with interest, and his daughter sent a thank you note and her card. I specialize in women who don't get thanked enough, she wrote. I slid into the car, dialed the number. She answered on the second ring. This is Eleanor. It's Ramona. Ramona Caney. You gave me your card 18 years ago. A pause, then a warm voice. I was wondering when you'd call. I exhaled. I think I'm ready. You have your documents. All of them. Good. Email me everything. I'll pull property records in the meantime. And I want to meet somewhere quiet. I have a place, I said. Tomorrow morning, yes. Don't tell them yet, she said. I haven't said a word. Good. The ones who silence you are always loudest when you speak. I ended the call. On the way home, I stopped at a copy shop. Printed duplicates of every page in the trust. Bound them. Labeled the spines. One stayed in the car. One went in my tote. One I would send to Eleanor. I returned home before dinner. Brendan didn't look up from the TV. Sophia passed me on the stairs without a word. I brewed another cup, sat by the window, binder in my lap, pen in hand, and wrote 4 words on the inside cover, in case they forget. Then I sealed it shut. I opened the 3rd folder from the bottom. Paper clips snapped. Ink smudged. Someone had rushed. Buried between utility bills and insurance renewals, I found it a single-page document printed on glossy stock, signed in black gel ink. Durable power of attorney. My name. Brendan's signature. A notary stamp from 3 months ago. Dated exactly 2 days after I'd been in urgent care for a dizzy spell. I hadn't signed anything that week. I ran my fingers over the paper. Light indentations. Not fresh, but not old either. I tilted it toward the window. His signature looked real. Too real. The lines too practiced, like someone who'd been preparing. The notary's name, one of Sophia's high school friends. I remembered her curly hair, bright nails always calling everyone babe. I flipped the page. No second sheet. Just the one. No witness. No attorney letterhead. No phone call. No context. They weren't planning a request. They were planning a replacement. A transfer. A silent move of control. One they thought I'd never find until it was done. I placed the document on the table, smoothed it flat. Then I smiled. They thought I was already gone. Thought I'd signed myself away in sleep. Thought grief had made me soft. They were moving before I could, but I was already 10 steps ahead. I slipped the forged paper into a plastic sleeve, dated it, filed it into the fraudulent section I'd created that morning. I added a label, unauthorized POA, initiated without consent. Then I opened my email, and forwarded the scan to Eleanor. Her reply came fast. That's not enforceable. No witness, questionable notary. Do not confront yet. Let them act first. Then we strike. I leaned back in my chair. Let that word settle. Strike. Not explain. Not plead. Strike. That evening, Sophia made risotto. She didn't ask if I wanted any. Didn't plate me a serving. Just carried 2 bowls to the living room and turned on the baby monitor loud enough to drown out thought. I poured my own coffee, sipped it slowly, watched them from the kitchen. They were laughing, comfortable, planning. They had no idea the walls were listening now. No idea the woman they'd boxed into a corner had already built a door out. I walked upstairs with my mug, locked the door behind me, opened the safe, removed the original deed, placed the forged POA beside it. 2 names, 2 dates, 2 different stories. Only one would stand. The next morning, I received a call from Eleanor. I've submitted a fraud alert. Public records are frozen on your file for 60 days. Thank you. And Ramona, if they file anything now, they'll trigger an investigation. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. They won't see it coming, I said. No, she agreed. But they will feel it. I hung up, sat at my desk, added one more note to the binder May 3rd forged POA discovered. Targeted attempt to access control. Documentation in progress. I didn't shake. I didn't cry. I underlined it. Then I flipped the page. I signed without blinking. 3 pages. Initials on the corners. Final signature dead center in blue ink. Eleanor slid each one away, stacking them with practiced care. That's it, she said. Ownership reasserted. Will updated. Transfers blocked. I nodded. The conference room smelled like lemon oil and sealed envelopes. No dramatics, just quiet paperwork and the end of a very long rope. No one else can touch the title, now she continued. Not without a court order and a death certificate. And I already filed a fraud protection request with the county registrar. What about the will you're in full control? Brendan is listed as next of kin, but there's no inheritance unless he meets the clause. What clause? She smiled. The gratitude clause. I raised a brow. If he attempts to sell, transfer, or occupy property you haven't approved in writing, he forfeits his claim. Period. Same for Sophia. It's airtight. I signed one more line. Eleanor closed the binder gently like it was made of glass. Would you like to deliver it yourself? She asked. No, I said. Not yet. She placed it in a sealed envelope and handed me a duplicate copy. Keep this somewhere separate. Safe, but reachable. I tucked it into my tote. On the drive home, I didn't turn on the radio. I let the quiet stretch. Every street I passed, every cracked sidewalk and fading porch told me this is still mine. When I pulled into the driveway, their car was gone. Inside the house was silent. I moved through it slowly, checked the kitchen. Clean. The baby monitor buzzed low in the corner. I turned it off. I poured a fresh cup of coffee, sat down at the kitchen table, opened my copy of the binder, ran my fingers over the embossed initials. R.K. Ramona Caney. No hyphen, no shared authority, no joint anything. I read every page again, clause by clause, signature by signature. The weight wasn't fear. It was steel, cold, solid, sharp. I didn't need to raise my voice. Didn't need a scene. They would walk right into it themselves. That night, Brendan asked me if I could move some of my boxes out of the hallway closet. Why we're thinking of turning it into a linen pantry. Sophia says we're running out of space. Then buy a house. He blinked. What you want space? Start paying for it. He laughed like I was joking. I didn't laugh back. His smile faded. We just thought it'd be more efficient. I've already filed paperwork, I said. He stopped mid-step. What kind of paperwork? I sipped my coffee. Ownership paperwork. He stared. We know it's your house. No, I said. Now you'll remember it. He didn't ask more. He just nodded stiffly and walked away. I washed my cup, dried it slow, put it back on the hook, and waited. She dropped the list on the table like it was a court order. Printed, bolded headers, bullet points. No touching the baby without permission. No kitchen use after 7 p.m. No personal laundry in the main washer. Quiet hours enforced. No hallway lights after 9 p.m. I read every line without flinching. At the bottom, her name, in cursive. Sophia Reyes Caney, like she'd signed a treaty. I looked up. She was already backing away from the table, arms folded like a teacher expecting resistance. Brendan stood by the door, eyes fixed on his phone. Coward. "I'm sorry," she said too brightly. "It's just, we've got a newborn now, and structure is really important." I folded the list once. Neatly. Carefully. "Where do you suggest I do laundry?" She blinked. "There's a laundromat a few blocks down. It's usually quiet during the afternoon." "And the baby's been colicky," she added. "So we're trying to keep stimulation low?" I nodded. "Of course." Sophia tilted her head. "You understand, right?" "I understand perfectly." She smiled, satisfied. "Great." Brendan mumbled something and disappeared down the hall. Sophia followed. I unfolded the list, laid it flat, read it again. Then I pulled open the drawer beneath the toaster and placed it inside. Top drawer, dead center. Let it sit like a splinter. Small, but there. That evening, I boiled water at 7:15. Let it whistle long. Made garlic toast. Let the smell fill the house. Washed a full basket of towels. Left the dryer running past midnight. No one said a word. No baby woke. No lights flicked off. The rules had no teeth. They were posturing. Still, I made notes. June 2nd. Written restrictions presented by Sophia. No legal weight. Brendan did not speak. Printed document archived. I stapled it into the binder. Filed it under behavioral evidence. The next morning, I left a single note on the fridge. "Your guest privileges have expired." Nothing more. No threats. No demands. Just a mirror. Let them see what it feels like. Let them guess what comes next. I finished the last stitch before sunrise. Soft yarn. Pale blue and cream. No pattern, just rhythm. My hands moved on their own. Not to impress. Not to be seen. Just to finish. I folded the blanket and tied it with twine. Set it gently on the rocking chair in the corner of the living room. No note. No bow. Just offering. By noon it was gone. I found it in the kitchen trash, buried beneath eggshells and a coffee filter. Still folded. Still tied. Sophia passed by humming, holding the baby. She didn't look at me. Didn't flinch. I pulled it out with both hands. Yolk soaked one corner. Coffee grounds clung to the edge. I didn't cry. I rinsed it. Let it drip dry in the laundry sink. Hung it in the sun. Let the wind carry the rest. That evening, I didn't speak at dinner. Brendan didn't ask why. After they went to bed, I opened the safe again. Pulled out the deed. Original. Embossed. Stamped. I placed it in a new envelope. No handwriting on the front. Just the return address printed clear in the top left corner, Ramona Caney, homeowner. I sealed it. Took it to the post office before it opened the next morning. Sent it certified. Signature required. To myself. A legal breadcrumb. Proof of ownership. Proof of awareness. Proof that someone was watching even when forgotten. The clerk handed me the receipt. I folded it twice, tucked it in my wallet. When I got home, the baby was crying upstairs. Sophia shushed loud enough for the whole house to hear. I poured coffee. Opened my binder. Filed a new page. June 5th. Blanket discarded. Emotional rejection. Certified mail issued with original deed enclosed. Chain of documentation active. I taped the receipt beside the entry. The blanket dried slowly, color faded, but whole. I didn't knit another. I didn't fold again. I waited. She cornered me by the fridge. Arms crossed. voice sweet. So I was thinking, maybe this year you could visit your sister for Thanksgiving. No apology, no warmth. Just suggestion, masquerading as kindness. Brendan leaned against the counter, arms loose, eyes careful. We're just thinking of starting some new traditions, he said. More relaxed, more us. Us. I looked at them. Two people standing in a kitchen I paid off. Planning a holiday in a house they didn't own. A table they didn't build. A meal they wouldn't cook. I didn't flinch. Of course I said. That makes perfect sense. Sophia smiled like she'd won something. I went upstairs, sat on the edge of my bed, let the quiet settle like fog. I didn't call my sister, didn't pack a bag, didn't plan to leave. I watched. They brought in extra chairs, cleared out the living room, shoved my sewing table into the laundry hall to make room for more guests. A turkey arrived in the freezer, boxes of wine stacked under the sink. Sophia wrote a menu in gold marker and taped it to the fridge. She didn't offer me a task. Not even the gravy. The night before Thanksgiving, I took the carving knife from its drawer, polished the handle, laid it across a linen napkin, placed it in a velvet box, closed the lid. I didn't set the table. I didn't bake pies. I made one pot of coffee, drank it alone. Then I opened my laptop and printed a copy of the meal prep list, Sophia's handwriting her name at the top. I filed it. November 22nd, formal exclusion from shared tradition. Request to vacate. Hostile domestic takeover masked by holiday pretense. The morning came loud. Laughter. Coats flung on hooks. Corks popped. Sophia's mother arrived in fur and pearls. Her cousins carried desserts. No one asked where I was. I sat in the garage with the door half open. Coffee on the step. Blanket over my lap. The carving knife box beside me. At noon, I heard Brendan's voice rise. She's probably with her sister. I wasn't. I watched guests park where I used to garden. They never looked up. I made a second pot of coffee, poured it into a thermos, sipped slow, let the smell of roasted turkey drift under the door, let the music play, let the house fill, and waited for the silence that always follows fullness. I opened the front door and walked in like I owned the place. Because I did. The scent of roasted chicken hit first. Candles flickered along the dining table. Polished cutlery. Full glasses. Sophia's voice rang from the kitchen, too bright, too rehearsed. Brendan turned from the oven, blinked twice. You're back early. I set down my bag, hung up my coat. Didn't want to miss dinner. He hesitated. Sophia planned this kind of last minute. Just her family. I noticed. I washed my hands, fixed my hair in the hall mirror, walked into the dining room. 10 people, all seated, only one chair left. Far end, nearest the vent. Sophia stood at the head, lifting her glass. To new beginnings she smiled, to a home built on love and shared values. Everyone clapped. I sat down, opened my napkin, waited. Mid-toast, I reached into my bag, pulled out a sealed manila envelope, set it on the center of the table. Forks paused, glasses lowered. What's that? Sophia asked. I didn't raise my voice. You're all tenants now. Read the letter carefully. Brendan frowned. Mom, what are you talking about? I turned to him. You've been living here rent-free for 8 years. You've violated your verbal agreement, excluded me from the household, and attempted to seize control of my property. Gasps. Sophia snorted. What property? This house belongs to the family. No, I said. This house belongs to me. I opened the envelope, slid out the papers. Eleanor Fisk, my lawyer, filed the updated deed and trust documents last month. This home is protected. The will has been revised and your names are nowhere on it. Silence. Furthermore, I continued. You'll find notice of tenancy. 30 days. Starting now. You can't be serious, Sophia hissed. You handed me a list of rules. You asked me to leave for Thanksgiving. You threw my blanket in the trash and locked me out of my own laundry room. I looked at her. You don't get to take the home and erase the woman who built it? Brendan stood up. We have a newborn. And I had a husband who died in this house, I said. A man who paid for every brick while you were still learning how to tie a tie. He trusted me to protect it. I handed him a second envelope. Here's your copy. He didn't take it. I placed it on his plate. Sophia was pale. No one moved. I poured myself water, lifted my glass. To new beginnings, I said, the kind built on memory, not manipulation. I drank. Then I reached for the chicken. Carved the first slice. Quiet. Steady. No one spoke. No one toasted again. And the rest of the meal passed in silence. Sophia screamed so hard her voice cracked. This is abuse. You're unhinged. She stood in the hallway with bare feet and a shaking hand pointing at the envelope she'd torn open like it might bite her. Brendan tried to calm her, reaching out, but she slapped his hand away. You knew she was doing this, she shrieked. He shook his head too quickly. I didn't. I thought it was just a bluff. I stood by the coffee pot. Calm. Steady. The front door opened behind them. Eleanor stepped inside my attorney in a pressed suit and flat shoes, holding a messenger bag. She didn't say hello. She handed Brendan a manila folder, the second copy of the 30-day eviction notice, co-signed, notarized, filed. This is the formal version, Eleanor said. Voice low. No room for error now. Sophia lunged forward. This isn't legal. Eleanor didn't blink. It's airtight. Sophia turned to me. You let me decorate that nursery. You let me plan Thanksgiving. I let you decorate, I said. I didn't sign away the deed. Brendan sat down hard on the stairs, hands on his head. The silence from him wasn't loyalty. It was defeat. Sophia grabbed her phone. Dialed someone. Hi, it's me. She's kicking us out. Yes? Her house. Can you come get... She stopped, glared at me. You'll regret this. I doubt it. I walked past her and opened the hallway closet, pulled out the luggage, the good one. Hers. The handle still had a pink ribbon from their honeymoon. I wheeled it to the door, set it upright, clicked it into place. Eleanor stepped aside. Not a word. Sophia's hands trembled. You're throwing out your own grandchild, she spat. No, I said. I'm removing the people who taught him. It's okay to humiliate a woman in her own home. She didn't answer. Brendan stood but didn't move toward me. Where are we supposed to go? You had 8 years to figure that out. They stared at me like strangers, like I was the storm. But I was only the wall they built against for too long. Sophia shoved past me, grabbed the luggage, yanked it hard enough to tip it over, picked it up again, walked out. Brendan followed slower. He didn't look back. Eleanor closed the door, locked it. We stood in the silence that followed a slammed door. No baby crying. No excuses. Just weight falling off. I walked to the sink, poured 2 coffees. Eleanor raised her cup. 30 days, but I don't think they'll last 3. I nodded. Upstairs, the nursery door was cracked open. I left it. Tomorrow would be for gathering, sorting, reclaiming. But tonight, I sat. Sipped. Let the quiet stay. The knock came early. 3 soft raps. Then silence. I opened the door and found Brendan standing on the porch, hair uncombed, eyes red. Behind him sat the baby stroller, empty, clean, parked too neatly to be casual. He didn't speak at first, just stared past me into the hall. I stepped aside. He entered like a stranger, shoes off, hands in pockets, shoulders hunched. I didn't offer coffee. We sat in the living room, him on the edge of the couch, me in my chair. The baby's cry echoed faintly from the car. Sophia hadn't come. I didn't know she'd push that far, he said. I said nothing. He rubbed his palms together, skin raw. I didn't mean for it to feel like we were kicking you out. It got messy. Fast. She wanted her own space, her own rules. And you? I asked. He looked at the carpet. I didn't stop her. No, I said. You didn't. He breathed in deep. I messed up. I know that. I didn't argue. He leaned forward. Look, Mom, I know you've drawn the line, but can we stay? Just for a little while longer. We're looking. I raised my hand. You can visit, I said, but this is no longer your home. His mouth opened, then closed. You lived here rent-free for almost a decade, I continued. You planned to take the deed behind my back. You stood by while your wife humiliated me in rooms I painted, mopped, and wept in. His jaw clenched. I wasn't trying to. You let her call me dirty, I said, in my living room. And you didn't say a word. Silence stretched. Outside, a bird chirped twice. The baby whimpered. The car engine turned off. She's in the car, he muttered. Didn't want to come up. I know. He stood, then sat again. Can I visit him? Just me? Sometimes. Yes. He nodded. Thank you. He walked toward the door. I followed quiet. At the threshold he turned. You really mailed yourself the deed? I smiled faintly. Twice. Once to the house, once to my lawyer. He laughed once, bitter sharp. You always did have a backup plan. No, I said. I had a front door. You just stopped knocking. He stepped out. I watched him buckle the baby in. Sophia didn't look up. The stroller stayed behind, forgotten or left on purpose. I brought it in. Clean, folded, heavy. Tomorrow I'd store it with the other things left behind. For now, I closed the door, turned the lock, and exhaled. I ripped the wallpaper down with my bare hands. The little clouds, the soft animals, the saccharine quotes gone. Each strip peeled louder than the last. I didn't play music. I didn't wear gloves. I wanted to feel the layers come off. Every inch of that room had watched me get erased. Now it would watch me return. The crib had already been picked up 2 days ago. Brendan texted first, then Sophia sent her brother. I didn't answer the door, just left the crib by the porch wrapped in a sheet. Let them carry away the symbol of everything they thought they owned. I painted the walls white. Not cream, not blush, not sky blue. White. Clean. Unclaimed. By mid-afternoon, the air reeked of fresh start. I opened the window, let it sting my lungs. The carpet came next. Rolled it, dragged it, dumped it by the curb. I didn't bother announcing the change. No calls, no texts, just me and the thrum of movement. I mopped the floors. Twice. Then I unpacked the boxes that had sat in storage for too long. Boxes Brendan never asked about, boxes Sophia pretended not to see. My books. The ones from college. From night shifts and library bins and late hours. The ones I'd saved underlined, read until the pages curled. I stacked them by author. Alphabetical. Not for anyone else. Just for me. A second shelf followed. Photo frames next. Not of them, of me. Me and Peter, 23, backpacking through Arizona. Me on the porch, holding Brendan the week we brought him home, before I knew silence could be weaponized. A notebook. My handwriting. A to-do list from the year we bought this house. Paint the fence. Fix the sink. Plant tulips. It felt like touching a younger version of myself. One who still believed in thank yous. I placed it on the desk. The desk I dragged from the attic, sanded down, oiled with lemon. By nightfall, the room didn't smell like baby powder anymore. It smelled like lemon, paper, new paint. No lullabies, no footsteps, just peace. I sat on the chair by the window, not a rocking chair, a reading chair. Wide, woven, mine. I sipped coffee. Hot, dark, no interruptions. No lists taped to the fridge, no passive notes. No, you don't mind. Right, only my breath. The creak of the chair, and the quiet realization this room no longer belonged to memory. It belonged to me. I yanked the closet door open and spotted it in the corner. A plain white box. Untaped. Unlabeled. Left behind like it didn't matter. I pulled it out with one hand. Dust slid off the lid. Inside, silence. A pair of baby shoes, blue canvas, soft soles. Still new. Probably a gift from one of Sophia's relatives. Next to them, a folded burp cloth. Faint scent of milk. Sour clean. And under it all, a photo. My photo. It was the one from my 27th birthday. Peter had taken it. I was standing barefoot in the backyard holding a coffee mug and laughing at something just out of frame. The grass was tall. My shirt was wrinkled. The sun hit me square in the face. It was the kind of picture that shouldn't have survived. But it had, somehow. I sat down on the nursery floor and held the image in both hands. It didn't sting. It settled. I folded it once gently, slipped it into my pocket. The shoes I held longer, soft, untouched. They hadn't taken them because they didn't matter. Or maybe they were forgotten in the shuffle of packing and shouting and slamming car doors. But to me, they weren't forgotten. They were proof of a moment. One small, early thing that hadn't been cruel yet. Before the demands. Before the rules. Before she shoved me with spit on her tongue. I placed the shoes on the windowsill, not as a shrine, just as a truth. They'd left, but I hadn't vanished. I stood, stretched, closed the box. Downstairs, the fridge hummed. I made a sandwich. Nothing fancy, just sharp cheddar tomatoes, cracked pepper. Ate it at the kitchen table I hadn't used in weeks. The chair didn't wobble like I remembered. Maybe it never had. The dishwasher was full. I started it. The mail sat untouched on the counter. I sorted it. A letter from the water company. A flyer. A handwritten envelope addressed to Mrs. Ramona Tiller in loopy cursive I hadn't seen in years. No return address. I opened it. Inside, a short note. Saw the car gone. Hope you're doing okay. If you ever want to walk, I still do mornings. June. I smiled. Folded it neatly. Placed it beside the coffee maker. Tomorrow, maybe. Tonight I stood by the back door and looked out at the yard. The party lights were still wrapped around the fence, unplugged. I'd leave them up for a while. Let them dangle. A reminder that not all gatherings are celebrations. I turned the lock, went upstairs, turned off the light in the nursery, and walked back to the chair. I brewed the coffee strong, not for anyone else, just for me. 1 scoop extra. No sugar, no permission. The kettle hissed. The smell filled the kitchen, burnt bitter good. I poured it into the thick ceramic mug, the one with the chipped rim I always reached for when the house was full of noise. Now it was quiet. No baby crying, no raised voices, no doors slammed shut to make a point. I carried it upstairs. The window was open just an inch, enough to let the breeze in. I didn't pull the curtain. I didn't need to hide anymore. The chair waited. I sat. 1 chair, 1 cup, 1 key on the sill. Beside it, the envelope from my lawyer. Still sealed. Not because I didn't know what it said, but because I didn't need to open it. Not yet. Not today. I sipped. The floor creaked under the radiator. A soft thump outside, just a squirrel on the fence. For once I didn't tense. The house didn't feel like it was holding its breath. It felt like it was breathing again. I looked out across the yard. The flowers Sophia had planted were mostly gone, dried, wilted, some ripped up by the wind. But the azaleas I planted 20 years ago still clung to the back fence. Tough things. Pink, stubborn, permanent. I took another sip. No checklist. No cleanup. No second cup to pour. No asking, who wants what? No lists on the fridge reminding me of my own place. My place was here. I reached into the drawer beside the chair. Pulled out the folded letter Peter had left. The one labeled, in case they forget. I didn't need to read it again. I just liked holding it. The weight of someone who remembered me before I became useful. I placed it beside the deed. 2 names. 1 life. Outside, a dog barked. A car honked in the distance. The world moved. I didn't chase it. I sat. Let the steam rise. Let it swirl past my cheeks soft and slow. The doorbell didn't ring. The phone didn't buzz. No one knocked. No one asked. I didn't miss them. I didn't wish them harm. I just let it be. My name was still on the deed. And now so was my voice.